Imagine a world where what you thought was true was just a really, really good lie. Where brilliant minds were duped, the public was captivated, and history itself took a detour down a path of pure deception. Hey, I'm Michael and welcome to Hoodie History. It's great to have you here. Today we're pulling back the curtain on some of the most audacious, elaborate and downright bizarre hoaxes in history. These aren't just little white lies, these are multi-act plays of deception that captivated nations, fooled experts and became legends in their own right. From ancient fakes to scientific trickery, these are 5 examples when history truly fooled everyone. By the end of this video, you'll either be amazed by the ingenuity of the tricksters, or maybe a little more skeptical about everything you think you know. Let's dive in. The Turk, the chess-playing machine. Okay, for our first masterclass in manipulation, we're going back to the late 18th century, to a contraption that promised to revolutionize the world of artificial intelligence in that era, the mechanical Turk. So in 1770 Vienna, Wolfgang von Kempelen, a Hungarian inventor, unveils a truly astonishing machine. It's a life-sized wooden figure dressed in Turkish robes and a turban, seated behind a large cabinet. The cabinet doors are opened, revealing an intricate array of cogs, levers and machinery. This, von Kempelen declared, was the Turk, and it could play chess. Not just any chess, but master-level chess. In an age when mechanical marvels were all the rage, but true artificial intelligence was centuries away, the Turk seemed utterly impossible. It toured Europe and the Americas for decades, defeating opponents ranging from Napoleon Bonaparte to Benjamin Franklin. People were captivated. How could mere gears and springs possibly replicate human thought and strategy? Theories abounded: magnets, invisible wires, even tiny hidden children. Von Kempelen and his successors meticulously maintained the illusion. They'd always open the cabinet doors for inspection, careful to make it seem empty despite the visible machinery. They even had a routine where the Turk would supposedly wind up its internal mechanisms. The Turk's reign of mystery lasted for over 80 years. It was only in the mid-19th century, well after von Kempelen's death, that the full truth was gradually revealed through various accounts and investigations, including one published by a former operator and later by a prominent chess master. The secret? Inside that clever cabinet, using a series of hidden compartments, a small, highly skilled chess master was concealed. They would manipulate the Turk's arm using levers and observe the board through a clever system of mirrors. The visible machinery was largely a distraction. The Turk wasn't a marvel of AI, it was a marvel of human ingenuity in deception. It proved that sometimes the most sophisticated trick is simply making people believe what they want to believe. The Great Diamond Hoax of 1872. From cunning mechanisms to glittering illusions, this next tale takes us to the American Old West, where the promise of instant riches led some of the shrewdest minds in the country astray. This is the Great Diamond Hoax of 1872. So in the summer of 1872, 2 rough-honed prospectors, Philip Arnold and John Slack, walk into a San Francisco bank, looking surprisingly dusty but carrying a small bag. Inside, rough, uncut diamonds and glittering rubies. They claim they've discovered a secret diamond field somewhere in the wilds of Wyoming or Colorado. Now at this time, America was in the grip of diamond fever. Diamonds had recently been discovered in South Africa, and everyone was looking for the next big strike. Arnold and Slack, with their unassuming appearance and vague story, seemed like the genuine article. They quickly attracted the attention of some of the most influential and wealthy men in the country, including banking magnate William Ralston, mining expert George S. Dodge, and even legendary financier Charles Tiffany. Yes, that Tiffany who founded Tiffany Co. These shrewd investors were desperate to get in on the ground floor. They formed a company, poured in millions of dollars, tens of millions in today's money, and prepared for the greatest diamond rush in history. They even got famed geologist Clarence King, known for his keen eye, to accompany them to the secret location. King arrived, full of anticipation. He looked at the field, which was strewn with diamonds and other gems, and immediately suspected something was wrong. The gems were too shallow, in odd geological formations, and of varying quality from different parts of the world, a telltale sign of salting. Side note, salting means the fraudulent practice of adding valuable metals and gemstones, particularly gold or diamond, to ore samples from a mine to inflate the apparent value of the deposit. Clarence King quickly exposed the entire thing as a fraud. Arnold and Slack had simply bought cheap diamonds and rubies in London, dumped them on a remote plateau, and then discovered them. The investors were humiliated, the perpetrators fled, though they later returned most of the money, and the Wild West earned another legendary story of ambition, greed, and a brilliant, short-lived deception. It proved that when the stakes are high, even the smartest people can be blinded by the promise of easy riches. The Piltdown Man. From financial folly to scientific scandal, our next hoax shook the very foundations of human understanding. Prepare for the strange case of the Piltdown Man. In the early 20th century, scientists were desperate to find the missing link, an early human ancestor that would bridge the gap between apes and humans, especially one found in England. The dominant theories of evolution suggested that a large brain would evolve before a human-like jaw. Then in 1912, amateur archaeologist Charles Dawson announced a monumental discovery from a gravel pit in Piltdown, East Sussex, England. He'd found fragments of a skull and a jawbone. The skull was clearly human-like, but the jawbone seemed distinctly ape-like. Together they looked exactly like the long-sought missing link. Named Eanthropus dawsoni, or Dawson's Dawn Man, it was proclaimed to be the earliest Englishman, proving Britain's place at the forefront of human evolution. The find immediately became a sensation. It fit perfectly with the prevailing theories and national pride. However, a few skeptics, notably anatomist Sir Arthur Keith, raised doubts about the jawbone not quite fitting the skull, but their voices were largely drowned out by the excitement. For over 40 years, Piltdown Man remained a cornerstone of human evolutionary theory. Researchers studied it, debated it, and built careers around it. Then, in the early 1950s, new scientific techniques, including more advanced chemical analyses, like nitrogen and fluorine testing, allowed for a thorough re-examination. The results were shocking. The jawbone and skull were of different ages. Further analysis revealed the jawbone was from a modern orangutan, skillfully stained to look old, and its teeth had been filed down to match the wear of human teeth. The skull, while genuinely old, belonged to a modern human, likely medieval. Piltdown Man was an elaborate forgery, a scientific hoax designed to create a specific kind of missing link. While the identity of the perpetrator remains debated, Dawson himself is a prime suspect. The scandal highlighted how even the most rigorous scientific fields can be susceptible to bias and the desire to confirm a hypothesis. The Cardiff Giant. Now let's turn to a hoax so massive, so audacious, that it literally involved burying a giant. This is the incredible story of the Cardiff Giant. So we're in Cardiff, New York in 1869. On October 16, workers digging a well on the farm of William C. Newell strike something hard. As they excavate, they uncover what appears to be the petrified remains of a 10-foot-tall man. The giant was an immediate sensation. Thousands flocked to the farm, paying 50 cents a pop to see this incredible discovery. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. In the mid-19th century, there was a passionate debate between science and religion. Many religious fundamentalists believed the Bible literally, including passages about giants walking the earth. Scientists, meanwhile, were pushing for evolutionary theories. The Cardiff Giant seemed to be undeniable proof of biblical literalism. Experts, both scientific and religious, weighed in. Some declared it an ancient statue, others a true petrified giant. The giant became a national craze, even attracting the attention of circus impresario P.T. Barnum, who, after being denied the chance to rent it, created his own fake giant. But the truth, as often happens, was far more mundane and theatrical. The Cardiff Giant was actually a carefully crafted hoax orchestrated by a New York tobacconist named George Hull, a staunch atheist who wanted to prove how easily people could be fooled by religious literalism. He had hired sculptors to carve the massive figure out of a 4.5-ton block of gypsum, treated it with acids to make it look aged, and then secretly buried it on his cousin William Newell's farm a year before its discovery. Hull eventually confessed, completely exposing the entire charade. He even publicly showcased the actual making of the giant, laying all his cards on the table. Even after this clear confession and the evidence came out, some people still held on to the belief that this massive stone figure was authentic. The Cardiff Giant remains a powerful testament to how a compelling narrative can take root and resonate, sometimes even more powerfully than direct facts. It really makes you pause and consider the complex ways we perceive and believe in the stories around us. The Cottingley Fairies. For our final act of deception, we're stepping into a world of magic, innocence, and the unwavering belief of even the most rational minds. This is the enchanting but ultimately fabricated tale of the Cottingley Fairies. It's 1917 and the world is in the midst of World War I. Two young cousins, Elsie Wright, 16 years old, and Frances Griffiths, 10, are living in Cottingley, Yorkshire, England. They claim to play with fairies in the nearby beck, stream. When their parents are skeptical, Elsie, a keen amateur photographer, decides to prove it. She borrows her father's camera and soon they produce two photographs, one of Frances with 4 winged fairies and another of Elsie seemingly interacting with a gnome. To our modern eyes, these photos might look like obvious cutouts, but in 1917, photography was still a relatively new and mystifying art form. The idea of supernatural beings was also powerful. The photos were sent to experts, including a leading figure in the Theosophical Society, and eventually they caught the attention of none other than Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes and a devout spiritualist. Conan Doyle, desperate for proof of an afterlife and other mystical phenomena after losing many loved ones in the war, became a staunch believer. He used the photos to illustrate an article about fairies in a popular magazine and later wrote a book on the subject. His endorsement gave the photos huge credibility, convincing countless people that fairies were real. Even the Royal Photographic Society couldn't definitively prove they were fakes at the time. The girls, initially doing it for a laugh, found themselves trapped by their own prank. They maintained the story for decades. It wasn't until 1983, when they were elderly women, that Elsie and Frances finally confessed. They admitted that the fairies were cardboard cutouts, copied from a popular children's book and held in place with hat pins. Only one of the 5 photos they took, featuring 2 fairies and a girl, was genuinely unexplainable by the girls and remains a topic of mild speculation. The Cottingley Fairies remind us that even in the face of logic, the human desire to believe in magic and wonder can be incredibly powerful. It's a charming hoax that illustrates how easily history can be swayed by a compelling, even fantastical, narrative. So there you have it, 5 times when ingenious minds, often for very different reasons, managed to pull off some of the most spectacular deceptions in history. From a fake chess master to a planted giant, from a staged diamond field to a carefully constructed ancestor, and even to a pair of mischievous fairies, these stories aren't just about trickery. They're about what we want to believe, the biases we bring to new information, and the incredible power of a well-told story, even if that story is a complete fabrication. These hoaxes often tapped into the prevailing anxieties, hopes, or scientific theories of their time, making them almost irresistible to believe. They remind us that history isn't just a collection of facts, it's also a landscape shaped by human perception, desire, and sometimes outright deception. What do you think about these hoaxes? Are there any other historical hoaxes that you know or would like to explore? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest cons, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Hoodie History for more stories that prove reality is often stranger and sometimes more deceptive than fiction. And one last thing, if you're interested in shorter stories from history, I publish content frequently on my other channel, Hoodie History Shorts. You can check it out now to discover all kinds of punchy stories from history. There's a link here and in the video description. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep your eyes open for those historical illusions.